The frequency. Now, to establish frequency, we have to establish the training week. I think of the training week, I coach athletes or whatever, and I think of training week, we start Monday and we go through Sunday. But in this study, because we have to start the individuals right away, we got to get them right now. We can't wait till Monday. They're in residential for 21 days, and we got to do it right now. Their training week starts the day they randomize into the study. If they randomize on Tuesday, that's the first day of their week, and they finish on Monday. If it's Wednesday, it's through Tuesday, or Friday through Thursday. So this presents a really interesting thing because we're trying to do smart prescription. We don't want to do 3 days in a row. You got the weekend messing things up. So this presents a challenge because, you know, Norberto might have 8, 10 different participants, all with different training weeks. The frequency to get this is anything necessary to get our dose. We've got to get that dose. And we're ideally want 3 times a week, which gives us a length of about 30, 35 minutes per session on average. They can do an extra session or two. We have a couple of individuals well over 300 pounds, so their workouts are 45, 50, 55 minutes at vigorous intensity. That's a lot for them to handle. So those participants kind of break it down 4 times a week, 5 times a week, and then their doses are a little bit smaller, if we trust them to show up on all those days. They can't exercise more than 5 times a week or 2 times a day. And at the beginning, we also thought, well, we don't want anyone doing more than 40% in any one session. We might overtrain them or get them injured. But then we kind of realized that might be out of our control, and a person might disappear for a week and show up on the last day of the week, and we might as well get as much as we can. So we said, you know, if that's the case, then they can do as much as they can on that last day. And I don't think we've ever seen anyone do more than 50% anyways. That's about 55 minutes, and they're too tired, and they want to quit and go home. So that's not really an issue because they just can't do any more than that. So the intensity, we use a heart rate monitor in the laboratory. Again, we ramp them up. I got to tell you, when you put together studies and you do this, 50 to 60% of your max heart rate for someone who's out of shape, I mean, that treadmill's not even moving. I mean, I think we're about 1.5 miles an hour on 0 incline, and it takes them 50 minutes of this. It's like the most boring thing in the world that week 1. But we're just trying to get them used to the treadmill and doing this. Week 2 is regular walking, and then after that is vigorous intensity. We have one individual who, in his past history, he lives here in Denver actually, was a mountain climber, mountain hiker, and so he was physically inactive for a year, was included into the study, and as he got back in shape, kind of found his roots of what he used to be, this guy's walking at 3.8 miles per hour on a 15% incline, not holding the bar. I challenge any of you to do that. I mean, Chad and I have tried that, and and he does it for 30 minutes. It's unreal. And he maintains his heart rate in that zone. He's on the treadmill 22 minutes and he's out. And that's how long his session is because the intensity is so great and it burns his calories down fast. The time, there's no set time in this, just to achieve that dose, okay? But the greater you can exercise at a higher speed or a higher incline, the faster you're going to burn the calories and the quicker you'll get out of there as long as your heart is in that heart rate training zone. So we talked about these unsupervised sessions. This starts about week 13, session 2. They're out on their own. They got to do it on their own. It's very, very difficult. It's very difficult throughout the entire study, even more so here. And we really don't have any objective measures. We thought about, well, maybe we could give them accelerometers or at least buy them cheap heart rate monitors. And we did a little qualitative, look and asked around. And we're like, are you kidding me? The minute you give them something, they're going to go out and sell it. So you can't give them heart rate monitors. You can't give them anything. They're going to sell whatever you give them. So we're like, okay, so we better not do that. So we really don't know what they're doing when they go out. They come back and they said, yeah, I did it. We don't really know if they did it or not. We hope they did. So some of the things that we try and do is really replicate that session, your RPE, the feeling, how hard it was, how long it was, and then we send them out. One thing we do to facilitate this session, though, is we actually, the very first time, week 13, the second session, Norberto might go out to the community and meet them if he feels safe. Sometimes it's not the safest neighborhoods. But if you can go out, maybe we find a track and show them how to use the track or use GMAP pedometer and map out, a course. And so you got your course, you got your distance, and you can tell them how long to do it, and then you can figure out velocity, and that's pretty much enough to get some sort of caloric expenditure. Also, some participants in this group, they're very routine oriented. If you get in that routine, they're coming, and they will not miss a session. We had one person finish, he didn't miss a session over 36 weeks. Very routine. But again, when they're done, they don't want to stop coming to the laboratory. So we said, well, but that's not unsupervised. So we said, okay, we're going to let you come to the laboratory and use the treadmill, but we're just going to ignore you. So at least we're not supervising you. You come in, you can use your heart rate monitor, but I'm not going to do anything. We're going to ignore you, basically, which also brings up some issues because that participant tends to come in drunk and sometimes, a little bit high. But it's nonstop issues to deal with in this study. But it's very fun, very interesting. So one of the considerations, we do track step counts. They wear the step monitors, hopefully, and not very successfully in this group at all, for 9 months. So a session is about 4,000 to 4,500 steps. So on their unsupervised sessions at home, we'll see that spike on those days, or we should see that spike. Maybe they'll be at 6,000 on a regular day and 10,000 on the days they say they're doing their exercise. So we can kind of monitor it that way a little bit and compare it, and hopefully that helps us a little bit. But we've had problems. They don't like to adhere to this at all. Some are perfect, but the majority, it's kind of hit and miss with them. The last thing I'm going to talk about is injuries. So, when I was talking to Dr. Church, he says, what I'm finding in my studies is there's this unmasking of injuries. People are physically inactive for years of their life while they just abuse their body. And his was in diabetics and different groups. He says, and then they start exercising again, and that knee that they hurt in high school, all of a sudden, it's not fixed, but now that they're exercising, it starts hurting again. Well, he said, you should track that, you should follow that. But you know what, we haven't really found this at all. Okay, we found a lot of other things, but I haven't seen too much of old injuries coming up again. What we have seen is this manipulative side. Because they've figured out now, they come in and they do these assessments, they do their urine drug screen, the timeline fall back, and then all of a sudden their back hurts. Has it hurt you all ever before? Did it hurt you last week? No, it just started right now. Or we got one guy come in wearing one of the face masks because he's got something wrong with his lungs. Guy doesn't exercise anymore because they figure they know now they get paid for the assessment. Our IRB made them pay after the assessment before the intervention. So we see all these mysterious ailments that all of a sudden prevent them from participating that just flare up. Or like, you didn't tell us that. We did a really complete screening, a medical history, nothing's wrong with you, your knee is fine, and all of a sudden you're limping every time we see you. But then we see you and you're not limping, but you don't see us. So what can you do? It's their choice to be in the study, so we do the best we can. What has also been very interesting is unidentified or unrelated injuries that pop up. So I talked about the heart problems. We see this on the second max test. Recently, one of the individuals here had a perforated ulcer and almost bled to death. I mean, they're taking such poor care of their body, and you don't really think about this when you set up the intervention, but it's not really what the intervention's doing to them. It's what they're doing themselves the other 23 hours of the day. Perforated ulcer, passed out, hit his head, broke his jaw, cut his face up, stitches. But, a week later, he's back doing his exercise. We had one site, it's unbelievable how many toothaches we have. We're literally thinking about putting a dentist on there because it's like every day someone's missing because of a toothache. And we just couldn't believe it. It's only one site that has that, but it's really quite amazing with the injury. So it's been, as an exercise physiologist, it's been really, really interesting applying what we learn and seeing how it is in a real life setting with a very variable population.